Alright, what is going on, everybody? We are back with another tier list, one that I hadn't done just yet. I actually remembered just now to do it because it's been a while since I have played Bloodhunt, and I really did enjoy this game for a battle royale. It was very fast-paced, lots of movement. It felt really good, and the abilities definitely make it much more exciting and a huge difference in game. So I'm just going to be going over the archetypes and what I think is best for both solo and trio, and I'll talk about that, per archetype itself. So let's get into it. We'll just start in order over here with the Brute. So the Brute has a leap, which is his entire archetype thing, which the Vandal also. He also has a pushing shockwave that stops all bullets and everything that are coming at him from that direction from hitting him, as well as it does do a little bit of damage if it does make impact with someone. And then his last ability is just regenning a little bit of health. I think it's about 50 or maybe 75. I'll give him, honestly, an A. I think he's overall pretty solid no matter if you're doing solo or trios. I think the movement with the leap can be very useful for getting in or out of fights. The shockwave can be a little less. It's much more inconsistent as to how it impacts the game itself and each fight. But also the regen health is very nice because you don't always have the ability to get any, so just naturally getting some can definitely be helpful in solos especially, but also trios, just so if there is a siren or something or a muse, they don't need to heal you. Sirens actually don't heal. So Enforcer, I am actually going to probably put in the S tier. I think for solos, especially being invulnerable to any sort of damage for a few seconds is huge, no matter in solos or trios, but especially in solos, just to get in there. And if you hit people with his other ability, the charge, it also suppresses them, presses the abilities, and I think a few seconds with their weapon as well, but definitely their abilities, so that can be huge in a solo or a team fight. And then also anybody near you that's close enough to you is also slowed, so he's definitely the very in your face. As soon as he gets around you, it's pretty much a wrap. So definitely in solos this can be huge, especially in close range fights, and then in trios it can definitely help your entire team to just have someone that can be invulnerable, can slow enemies and suppress them. I would say he's probably the best all-around archetype or choice for any game mode and anything like that. The Muse, I will put. I'm gonna put in the A tier. The biggest reason, honestly, is 2, and the biggest reason why I honestly almost thought about putting in B and could be an S if this were different, is the lack of ability when you can use powers when you're down. Just to be able to dash when you're down is just not really good enough to put an S. Now her regular dash, or his if you're playing a guy, is super helpful, again, to get in and out of fights, and being able to heal as an ability is very good as well, and that does heal teammates also, so definitely good for solos or trios. But the powers when down is basically you just being able to dash when you're downed on the ground. Sure, every once in a while it might be able to save your life, but overall it's not going to make that big of a difference. They will find you, or they'll just kill you anyway, or you won't even be able to use that in general. So that really keeps her down for me and not putting her in S. I think if that would be a different one or better somehow, then maybe an S, but honestly that almost puts her in B for me. And then the Prowler. Prowler, I'm also going to put in A. I think being able to go invisible and move out of sight and away, you still can take damage while you are invisible, obviously, and you won't come out of invisibility, but being able to move in and out of fights, no matter solo or trio, is huge. The bats for the area of seeing enemies um, is pretty useful, especially in trios, obviously, to be able to see if people are hiding here or there, and even in solos, especially late game, to see where people are at. The bad part about that is, people can obviously move away pretty easily, can only be seen for a few seconds if they are in there, so it's kind of a little lackluster, but it's definitely useful. And being able to track people that are wounded is definitely helpful in any game mode as well. That is his last ability, or hers. Being able to see people that are low on health so you can follow them and finish them off, as well as that's how you can find down people as well. So, if the Muse, on the other hand, does dash away, you can still hopefully track her pretty decently and finish her off. But definitely a good overall choice for all parts of it. Now, the Saboteur, I have to put in B. Honestly thinking about C, but the Vanish, which is for both of these guys, is still obviously very strong. Being able to be invisible for a few seconds and move in and out is huge. And his Bomb is very useful only in small areas where you know that an enemy is going to chase you or be at, or in the late game. Now, in the very late game, I would say Saboteur is arguably the best, if not one of the best, to be able to put these traps down and obviously harm enemies for a decent amount of damage. But to get there, then, throughout the rest of the game, which is arguably more important until the late game, is, a lot more lackluster, especially with his other ability being crouching for basically invisibility. So it's more like, how Predator looks when he's invisible. you know, um, is basically that. You can still kind of see the outline, but overall invisible. Pretty lackluster, but again, in certain situations, the bomb is super helpful, and definitely in late game, it is, one of the best things to have around on a team or in solo as well. And then the Vanish is good too, but I would say normal game, throughout the initial and mid game, Saboteurs down here, late game, like B and S for sure. And then Siren. Ooh. Siren, I'm honestly going to put an S as well. So the reason being is that the dash is obviously helpful in and out of fights because everybody has some sort of movement ability, so it's good, period. And then if you're close to anyone, you can blind them, blind multiple people. So that's super helpful to have if people do get close. But also for solo or teams, his other ability is charming civilians. So they don't scream or see if you're feeding on them or anything. And that's for anybody that's near you and yourself. So that is super helpful if you're wanting to get some of the blood points for the natural abilities and whatnot. I think it's always super nice to have that, to not have to worry about that. And then the other abilities are super helpful as well. And last but not least is Vandal. I would say Vandal is B. The Leap, same with the Brute, is, again, everybody has some sort of movement ability. Nice to get in and out of fights. The Earth Smash that they do have is, while good, very difficult to consistently hit. You're not going to hit it a lot of the time, especially because people are normally not on the ground. They're jumping around. They're using movement abilities. It's just not really going to happen. Though the thing that does keep her, I think, in B is her other natural ability, which is taking less damage when you're near enemies. It's not that much less, but obviously it can be the difference in some fights. So having that and being close range, it can definitely be useful to take less damage. But overall, this is about where I would place some people. Maybe Siren at A at the very worst for sure. And again, Saboteur is just kind of in this middle area depending on at what point the game is. But overall, this is where I would place everybody. So please let me know what you guys think, where you guys would place people, whether it's in solo or trio or just overall. And we will be back again shortly.